So when you got to Fairview Road, were there any other law enforcement officers other than Canton police officers?
No, there was not.
When you appeared at Fairview Road or arrived, were you the superior officer on the scene?
I was highest ranking officer.
As you're pulling up to Fairview that morning, what's the first thing you see when you get there?
As I pull up, I see the last of the fire apparatus pulling away. I get out of the vehicle. The first one I encountered was Sergeant Sean Good, who was the shift supervisor.
Did you see any other of your officers there?
I did. I saw Lieutenant Lank further down, and further down I saw two other cruisers, which ended up being Officer Mullaney and Officer Sarif.
Did any of the cruisers or vehicles have lights on?
They did.
Did you hear any sirens?
No, there wouldn't be any sirens.
Why wouldn't there be?
Sirens are used to move traffic. There was no traffic. It was a blizzard. There were no cars on the road. You might see an occasional plow.
Did you ever learn the general area where the person was found?
Yes.
At that time, did you know who the person was?
I did. I knew him by name, yes.
Did someone inform you of who the person was?
Sergeant Sean Good did, yes.
Okay. And who was the person that you learned was on the ground?
John O'Keefe.
Had you known John O'Keefe?
I knew of John O'Keefe. I had never met John O'Keefe.
When you first arrived at Fairview, was Mr. O'Keefe still on the ground?
He was not.
Was he at the scene?
He was not.
So when you got to the scene at Fairview, Mr. O'Keefe was already gone?
Yes, he had been transported to the hospital.
So did you ever firsthand see exactly where Mr. O'Keefe was lying when he was found?
I did not.
Did anybody point out to you the general area?
Yes.
Did you have a chance at that point to, well, obviously you didn't have a chance to examine or look at Mr. O'Keefe. Did you have a chance to look in the general area where you were told he was found?
I did.
Tell us a little bit more about the weather now that you're standing outside Fairview Road. What's the visibility like? What's the temperature like? What are the conditions like?
So it was terrible. It was blizzard-like. The wind would blow in your face. It would change directions. The snow was an icy snow. In the wind, you had to actually talk loud to be heard. Somebody right next to you, and it was your typical New England blizzard, basically.
At this point, did you have any position as you assessed the area, whether this was a criminal investigation?
When we had no crime at that time.
When you were there, were you looking for anything?
Yes, I was examining the scene.
Okay. At that point, did you have any reason to start a criminal investigation?
Not at that time, no.
When you learned that Mr. O'Keefe was found outside, did you go look at the particular area?
Yes.
Can you describe the area that was shown to you where Mr. O'Keefe was found?
Sure. It was on the left side of the property of 34 Fairview. You could see where first responders and witnesses and police officers had walked up to the area. It was by a flagpole on the property line of number 32 Fairview.
What was the lighting condition at that point in that area?
It was dark. It was sun was coming up, but due to the weather and the cloud cover and the snow, its visibility still was not great.
Were the law enforcement vehicles providing any light for the area?
No.
How about the house? Was there any bright lights coming out of the house illuminating that area?
I didn't see any lights, window lights on. There may have been an exterior, the door light at one or two houses.
In addition to the law enforcement officers that were there, did you see any civilians when you got there?
No, there were no civilians there.
While you were outside looking at the area, did any civilians ever come out?
No, not at all.
Any civilians ever come out of 34 Fairview?
No.
How about next door, 32 Fairview? Did you ever see any civilians come out of that address?
Nobody ever came out of the house.
Across the street, is there homes across the street from 34 Fairview?
There is.
Did you see anybody come out of either one of those houses?
Did not see anybody come out of those houses.
When you were outside and you were shown the area where you were told Mr. O'Keefe was found, Did you try to do anything regarding that area to identify the area itself?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
Yes. The area where you were told Mr. O'Keefe was found, did you try to do anything around that area to identify the area?
Well, it was marked out with crime scene tape at that time, and what I saw was pink blood, and it was in a circular pattern.
Was the crime scene tape holding up at all?
No, it was not. It was blowing wildly in the wind, and at one point, it was actually blowing in. It was triangular, and it was actually blowing into the crime scene.
Was the tape helping at all?
No, it was not.
Was there any use of putting a tent up at that point?
No, there wasn't, not due to the high winds.
Did you learn whether any of the officers had, at any point before you got there, gone into Fairview Road?
Yes.
Who did you learn went into Fairview Road?
Both Sergeant Good and Detective Sergeant Lake went into Fairview Road.
Did you know how long they were inside for?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Did you know that?
I did not.
At that point, did you go and speak to anybody in any of the nearby homes?
I did not.
When you were at this scene and you saw what was happening in the weather, did you make a decision to do anything?
Yes.
What did you decide you were going to do?
Since the state police were not responding, I decided to process the area where Mr. O'Keefe was found and try to find out why he had the medical episode he was having.
If you understood this to be a medical episode, and at that point you didn't have any information it was a crime scene, why were you taking the time and effort to process the scene under these conditions?
Because that's what we do. Even the hospital, there could be a reason that there's obviously a reason he's there. I think we had a duty and obligation to check around where he was found and see if there was any explanation to what caused his medical condition.
Did you focus on a particular area when you decided to look around?
I did.
What area were you going to look at?
Where it was pointed out he was found and where the blood pattern was.
Were you thinking about looking in any other areas around that?
Not at that time.
Why not?
We didn't have any reason to. We only had the area where he was found.
And at that point, did you have any idea what caused his injuries?
We had none.
At this point, when you were pointed or you're looking at the area where Mr. O'Keefe was found, was the area getting covered up at all?
Yes, it was.
With what?
Snow.
How quickly?
Very quickly. I believe it was forecasted to come down to 1 to 2 inches an hour, if I recall.
Did you have any idea how hard the ground was at that point?
It was frozen.
Objection, Your Honor.
No. Did you have any idea?
It was frozen.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
How deep was the snow covering that frozen ground?
Approximately 4 inches at that time.
When you wanted to look around the area, did you consider using a rake or a shovel?
I did.
And did you?
I did not.
Why didn't you use a shovel at that point?
I was afraid I would miss something or possibly break something.
What could you break with a shovel?
Anything, glass or anything of that nature.
What was your decision about how you would search that area? What did you want to see?
I wanted to see anything that was possible, whether it was any type of weapon or any type of medical bottle or any reason that he could have come to where he was.
Did you think of a way that you could look below the top of the snow without unresting the scene?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude?
Because of the blood, the pink spots I thought might be blood, I thought a leaf blower would be the best method because I have seen it used and to remove light layers of snow, and it can be controlled.
And after having seen that before and making that decision, what was the benefit of a leaf blower over a shovel?
I wasn't going to miss anything with a leaf blower, much better control.
And control, tell us what your intention, what was your hope with the leaf blower?
To clear the area, controlled, slowly, so any potential evidence of what happened to Mr. O'Keefe wouldn't be lost.
Did you have a leaf blower with you?
Did not.
So what did you do?
Sergeant Good volunteered to go get a leaf blower.
Did you remain at the scene?
I did.
And during this time, are you still have no information that it's a crime scene?
We had no information on a crime at that time.
Did Sergeant Good come back?
All right, still joining us, criminal defense attorney Jack Rice. Jack, my friend, great to see you. I have two questions. I'm going to start with the softball first. So, discussing and processing the crime scene, doing it that way because that's what they do. They process the scene, talking about the high winds, nobody came out of the house, using a leaf blower for better control. I mean, to me, so far, all of this sounds like typical, for lack of a better description, looking at a crime scene.
Absolutely, and it's thorough. If you notice, one of the first things he talks about is the securing of that crime scene, the idea of the tape being where it was. But then what he does do is he talks about the weather and how the weather is impacting that and the security of that crime scene, how the tape is blowing around, how nothing is really great in terms of that issue, and that they're having to do the best they can under these unusual circumstances. This is, I think, going to be useful for the Commonwealth because their argument was, look how extreme the weather was in these particular instances. If we failed in some capacity, it was somehow due, at least partially, to the weather circumstances that we were dealing with. They're already starting to tee that up because they know they have some problems coming and they have to prepare for it on the front end.
That's right. They're preparing. You never want to hide a bad fact because that's going to bite you in the tail.
Right.
Here's my
lean in.
Right. Okay. So listen, over the weekend, I was reading what a lot of viewers had to say on social media about this case. We know it's divisive. People either think she absolutely did it or she absolutely didn't. But Jack, at the end of the day, there was real criticism of kind of an approach they thought by some of the anchors and legal analysts in terms of which side they were on. Guess what? There isn't a side for me. It's not about whether or not she did it. In a court of law, in a criminal case, it's not whether or not she did it. It's can the Commonwealth prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? Talk to us about how and why and if those are two very different things.
Oh my goodness, yes, because I've had people reach out to me too saying, what do you think? Did she do it? And this is going to sound, dare I say it, cold-blooded. I don't care. In a legal sense, I don't care because the question isn't what I think. It's frankly not even what the government thinks. The government all day long is going to prosecute a case because they think they did it. Now, the problem is just because they think they did it doesn't make any difference to me, nor should it to anybody else. They have a burden of proof, and they must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the person that they have charged committed that crime. And if they fail, even if the person did it, the failure is upon the government to fulfill their obligation and to prove their case. That's the burden. That is the standard. It does not shift. And sometimes the government wants to try to say, prove that you didn't do it. That's not the system in the United States. And that's not what we should stand for. And if the Commonwealth fails to prove their case, then Karen Read should be found not guilty. Flat out, full stop.
Whether she did it or not, the opposite we know is true.
Whether she did it or not.
And we know in our system they're wrongly convicted where the opposite happens, right? A jury finds they did it beyond a reasonable doubt, and then later, years later, there's some evidence or we learn they in fact didn't commit the crime. It kind of goes both ways. Jack, stand by. So appreciate you. We're going to have more testimony from the Karen Read trial coming up after this break. And don't forget, you can also watch Court TV on any streaming device, including Amazon Fire. Join us for live coverage, in-depth legal reporting and expert analysis on the nation's most talked about trials. We'll be right back with more after this quick break.
Is Karen Read a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Read was framed!
You know who did it.
The Karen Read murder retrial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, was Karen Read framed for the murder of her police officer boyfriend? We're breaking down today's key moments as week 3 of testimony gets underway.
Closing Arguments tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
We'll get you back to court in just a moment, but first, here's a quick look at other cases we are talking about and tracking here at Court TV. In Tennessee, closing arguments are underway in the trial for 3 former police officers accused in the beating death of Tyree Nichols. And in New York, the high-profile sex trafficking trial for Sean Diddy Combs has officially kicked off today with jury selection. Plus, in Florida, defendant Alexander Del Toro was back on the stand today to tell the jury that he shot his mom by accident after he got into a fight with his dad. Closing arguments are expected to begin there later this afternoon. Of course, we will keep you updated on all of these trials throughout the day. But for now, let's head back to Massachusetts for the murder retrial of Karen Reed. On the stand is still Lieutenant Paul Gallagher. He's testifying to uncovering evidence at the crime scene. He is still on direct examination by the Commonwealth.
He did.
Did you try to get any other items to help you?
Not that I recall.
Okay. When Sergeant Good came back with the leaf blower, did you use it?
I did.
Was it successful?
Very.
Tell us what you did.
I started with low speed and began whisking away the snow. And then I saw how it was uncovering. Those pink spots were becoming brighter red. So I verified it was frozen or coagulated blood at that time. And so out of the abundance of caution, I decided that that was something we may want to collect.
Why did you want to collect that?
Just out of abundance of caution, DNA. I expected it to be John's DNA. And I wasn't going to get a second chance at it. It was either collect it or never have it.
Were you making quick decisions under these circumstances?
Yes.
Did you ask somebody to get a container to put the coagulated blood in?
I ended up getting the containers.
Where did you get them from?
I got them from Lieutenant Gallagher, who lived in the neighborhood.
Did Lieutenant Gallagher ever come over to the scene?
He did not.
Did he work for the Canton Police Department?
He did.
Why didn't he come over to the scene with you?
Because he originally thought the scene was at 32.
Did you ask him to come over to the scene to help you?
No.
Did you expect him to come over to help you?
No.
Did you prefer he not?
Correct.
So when you get the containers, were they plastic cups?
Yes, they were red Solo cups.
And what was the purpose of using the red Solo cups?
They were plastic. They weren't going to leak. They weren't going to get soggy. They were large. I needed a small sample. My thought was because it was frozen or coagulated, that we could collect it, transport it, and transfer it to the crime lab, who could extract the DNA however they saw best fit.
Does sometimes the crime lab test evidence and sometimes not?
Of course, yes.
Is that your decision?
No.
You were telling us about the leaf blower. Does it serve to excavate the area?
It did.
Did you begin that process?
I did.
And when you did that, did you try to memorialize it?
Yes, I did.
How did you do that?
I had Sergeant Good videotape it.
Why did you have Sergeant Good memorialize your efforts to excavate the area?
I thought someone may wonder why I decided to use a leaf blower, so I wanted to demonstrate its effectiveness.
I'm going to move to introduce 2 videos that counsel has.
So there's no objection to these videos, right?
No objection.
Exhibit 51.
Thank you.
With the court's permission, can I show the jury the videos?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, can we show number 1, please? Could you, Ms. Gilman, stop at the end of the video so it's a still frame? That's good right there. Sir, who's the person holding the leaf blower?
That is me.
Did the leaf blower work as you had hoped?
It was great.
You see other footprints around that area.
Correct.
Do you know how those footprints got there?
Some of them were from first responders. Some of them were for witnesses. The ones up top by the flagpole were for when the officers put out the crime scene tape.
Did officers try to wrap the crime scene tape around the flagpole?
They did wrap it around the flagpole, yes.
I see. And from that vantage point, could you see the side and front yard?
Yes.
Did the side yard have any footprints or evidence that anything was dragged through the side yard?
No, not at all.
How about the front yard? Did the front yard have any evidence that anybody had walked across it or dragged anything across it?
It had one set of prints from Sergeant Lang.
Other than Sergeant Lang's footprints across the front yard, was there any other impediment?
No, not that I saw.
I'm going to ask if we could see the second video, please, Ms. Gilman. Could you stop there, please? You see the end of the leaf blower?
I do.
There's an object just below it at like 7 o'clock. Do you see that?
I do.
Did you discover something in that area?
We did.
What did you discover?
It's a cocktail glass.
Was it, did it have any damage to it?
It did.
Describe that for us.
It was broken on the top.
Could you continue the video, please, Ms. Gilman? Stop, please. There's some red spots. Is that what you identified as coagulated blood?
That is.
Below some of those spots and to the left, there's an area that's not white. It's brownish. Do you know what that is?
That's, I believe, just bare ground.
Okay. If we could finish the video, please. Okay. Thank you. Could you have the lights on, please? Did you or any officer at your direction obtain and preserve that broken cocktail glass?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Really smart to have that video taken because you can see exactly what he did to work the crime scene using that snowblower. Stay tuned. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to go right back in where we've left off. Stay tuned.
I'm Matt Johnson in Dedham, Massachusetts, covering the Karen Reed murder retrial. This is Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. My honor to be with you. Our Court TV cameras are in Dedham, Massachusetts, covering the murder retrial of Karen Reed. Prosecutors say that Reed drunkenly drove her SUV into her police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, and then left him there to die in a blizzard outside a home in Canton. But Reed's defense argues that O'Keefe's fellow officers killed him inside that home that belonged to a fellow officer, dumped his body on the lawn, and conspired to blame Reed in a vast cover-up. Still on the stand is Lieutenant Paul Gallagher. He's now testifying about what he found at the crime scene. Remember, he described he used a snowblower because that could be more controlled in examining that crime scene. Let's go back in for more.
Sir, I'm showing you two photographs. The first photograph, do you recognize what's in that photograph?
I do.
What is it?
It's a after we exposed the broken, I exposed the broken glass.
Is the broken glass depicted in that photograph?
It is.
Is that similar or substantially the same way it appeared to you that morning?
It's exactly how it appeared, yes.
Do you know if that photograph was taken as a still image of the video or not?
I do not.
Okay. second photograph? Can you take a look at that?
That's a close-up of the cocktail glass.
Of the same photo?
It is, yes.
I'd move these two photographs into evidence, please.
No objection.
Okay. Do you want it to be 52 and 52A?
Please, Your Honor.
Exhibits 52 and 52A.
Lieutenant, what was done with that cocktail glass?
It was bagged and seized as evidence.
Was it brought anywhere that morning?
It was brought back to Canton Police Headquarters.
What happens when it gets back to Canton Police Headquarters?
It gets logged into evidence, and it's assigned an evidence number. The officer types in a description of the item. In this case, it was a broken cocktail glass or broken glass. And once he hits the space bar, it automatically generates a property number for it. And I believe in this case, it was 22-18-PR, which means 22 is the year, 2022. 18 is how many pieces of evidence the department as a whole had collected that year so far. And PR, I believe, means property room.
Why is it assigned a particular number?
Everything is assigned a number by the computer.
You said it's brought to the evidence room. Is that a separate or a special place?
So we have two rooms. We have a temporary evidence room, and then there's a permanent evidence room. Only two people have access to the permanent evidence room.
Is there a reason why access to the evidence room is limited?
There is.
Why?
For security.
Even in the police department, the evidence room is limited as far as people who have access?
That is correct.
In the evidence room, is there an officer assigned as an evidence officer?
Not full-time. There is an assigned admin sergeant who is assigned as the evidence officer.
Does anything happen specifically with the evidence? Is it packaged or stored in any particular way?
The glass was put into a locker, I believe, and temporary evidence. And then it's the evidence sergeant's job to retrieve it. But in this case, we were going to transfer it to the state police.
Was it transferred to the state police at some point?
It was.
I'll allow it.
Were you part of the transition of that item to the state police?
I was.
And when was it transitioned and to who?
It was on February 1st, 2022, and it was to a criminalist from the Massachusetts State Crime Lab.
Do you know who the criminalist was?
I don't know the name, no.
Did the criminalist come to your department, or did you bring the item to them?
They came to our department.
In addition to the glass, there was plastic cups with coagulated blood?
That's correct.
What did you do with those cups?
Those were placed in temporary evidence and placed in a refrigerated unit.
To carry them from Fairview to the police department, did you hold the actual cups, or did you put them in something?
Nope, they were stacked in a bag.
Objection, Your Honor. Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it.
What type of bag?
It was a craft paper bag. In this particular case, we utilized a Stop and Shop bag.
Is that any different than a bag from the police department?
This made of the same paper, craft paper, the same size and dimension, other than Stop and Shop and evidence and probably price. They're basically the same bag.
Why did you use one of those rather than a bag that said evidence on it?
I don't know where that bag came from. I was in a personal car. Sergeant Lank was in a Tundra. If that bag is upside down, you wouldn't know it didn't say evidence on it. So I'm not sure where that bag came from.
And the plastic cups, do you know what happened to those?
Yes, they were turned over to the criminalist as well.
Where did you store them before they were turned over to the criminalist?
Temporary evidence in a refrigerator.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it.
Temporary evidence in a refrigerator.
Is the refrigerator part of the temporary evidence area?
It is, yes.
Did you bring that piece of evidence, the broken glass, with you today?
Yes.
With the court's permission, I'd like to approach the witness.
A perfect time to bring back in criminal defense attorney Jack Rice. Jack, you know what's funny is I know you were talking to the producers about, hey, can we talk about chain of custody? At the same time, I was in my mind like, let's talk about chain of custody, because was any, you know, we know they have to prove, right? You want to prove that it could not have been interfered with, tampered with, affected, and that that evidence is pure, so to speak, from how they found it at the crime scene. What did you note about the chain of custody as he described it?
One of the first things that I would have talked about that he didn't talk about was when he said he bagged it. Right when you say he bagged it, the purpose is to be able to say, and this is how you need to be able to imagine it, and you want a jury to imagine it. What you do is you find something and you put it in some sort of a receptacle, and then you seal it, and then you sign it. And then what you do is you take it, you individually take it to somebody else and you hand it to them. They then sign it and they take custody of it. If you want it back, you have to go back in and take it back from them and you sign for it. So you can imagine it's literally bing, bang, bing, bang, bing, bang. The purpose is to be able to say, if we wanted to recreate this route that this piece of evidence took from the street on the 29th of January of 2022 to this courtroom right now, we could actually create that so we know every single space, every single person, every single date and time that that piece of evidence shifted hands. I would have liked to have heard that if I were the jury, because at least then you can say, when you open up this piece of evidence right now, it is what I say it is, and it's the same piece of evidence that we picked up on the street. That wasn't as clear as I would have liked.
And it's going to be interesting to see what the defense does about it, because let's just talk about Alan Jackson, his masterful cross-examination so far with witnesses. I think he'll pick up on that. But here's the other thing that stood out to me, and it sounds a little ludicrous, but I can't help but say it. You know, clearly they used the blower, and I thought it was genius to use the snow blower to not disturb or lose evidence, but they used it right in that front portion of the yard. Arguably, that entire front yard, Jack, could be a crime scene, especially when the defense is saying, wait a minute, we think we have an expert who says the watch indicates he actually went into that home, but they didn't snow blow the entire yard.
That's correct. They did not do it. And they also didn't do something else. If we think about this idea of not using the shovel because you didn't want to break anything or you didn't want to move anything, and specifically they said there was only one set of shoe prints, of footprints that they saw.
I noticed that.
What about this? We know that snow was coming down, according to Gallagher himself, 1 to 4 inches an hour. So my response is, how do we know there weren't footsteps there before? How do we know there wasn't movement there before? Because all of that snow certainly and absolutely would have covered it up. And he acted like it didn't make any difference at all then.
I know.
That's an interesting question.
Me too, Jack. I was thinking the exact same thing, but there's been all this snow. Who knows what was under that snow? I mean, it's a terrible set of weather conditions to have to do crime scene investigation in, but it is what it is. Jack Rice, thank you so much, as always, for your amazing brilliance and sharing it with us here on Court TV. Coming up next after this break, we're going to have more testimony in the Karen Reed murder retrial. Plus, closing arguments are underway in the trial for the 3 former police officers accused in the beating death, a pretty horrible one, of Tyree Nichols. We'll have a live report to get you caught up on the latest up next.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, was Karen Reed framed for the murder of her police officer boyfriend? We're breaking down today's key moments as week 3 of testimony gets underway.
Closing Arguments tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
You watched while your patient was lying there being tortured.
What else was I supposed to do?
So much for your career in caretaking.
Interview with a Killer season finale, Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
Back to court in just a moment, but first we have an update out of Tennessee where closing arguments are underway in the trial for 3 former police officers who are accused in the beating death of Tyree Nichols. Joining us live in studio with an update is Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft. Always great to see you, especially in person. Kelly, thank you so much for being here. First, tell us what stood out to you as highlights from the state's closing argument.
Well, Judge Ashley, a lot, because this is such a serious and devastating case to hear about, and we listened to the state's closing arguments. The closing arguments took place for about 90 minutes. Right now, they are at lunch, and so we're expected back in about a half hour, and then we're going to start hearing from defense counsel. But we can take a look at some of the video that we have had from this case. So this is the case. We're taking a look at the victim in the case, of course, and then the people that are on trial. We have Tadarius Bean, Justin Smith. They're facing several charges, as well as Demetrius Haley. The state's case was quite short compared to the defense case, and the state says the video of the beating of Nichols really speaks for itself, and that Nichols was not trying to resist arrest, but rather he was trying to survive. So inside that courtroom, family members of the officers, this is really the first time that they have been seen in court for this trial. As I was mentioning, Judge Ashley, the state's closing lasted about 90 minutes.
And that video is something else. A lot of people have seen that, and it's hard to watch, quite frankly. Now, what do you think we expect from the defense's closing arguments?
So what they're going to do is talk about police protocol, and that these gentlemen did not go outside what was expected of their duties. We're also expecting to hear, most likely, what they found inside the victim's car. They're also going to talk about the fact that they feel that he was resisting arrest, where, of course, the state was saying that no, the victim in this case was just trying to survive. So we're also just going to hear different points of view from the various attorneys, some saying that one of the officers did not arrive until later, and just trying to limit their culpability in this situation, Judge Ashley.
Yeah, this is something else. Well, thank you so much, Kelly Craft, for your great updates covering this trial. I know there's a lot going on here, and we'll hear from you more. Thanks. Thank you. All right now, let's turn back to Massachusetts for the murder retrial of Karen Reed. We're picking it up right where we left off. Let's go back in together.
Lieutenant, before you open the box, were you one of the officers that discovered that broken glass?
Yes.
Did you personally bring the glass from Fairview to Canton?
No.
Do you know who did?
Yes.
Who?
Detective Sergeant Lang.
Sergeant Lang?
Yes.
When you went back to the station, you said that the evidence was then put into an evidence locker. Did you place it in the evidence locker?
I don't recall.
And then inevitably, it was transitioned to somebody from the forensic unit?
That's correct.
Were you personally there when it was taken from the evidence locker and given to the person from the forensic unit?
Yes, that was me.
Did you have a responsibility and role in that process, or were you a passive observer?
I had an active role. I was the chain of custody. I was turning it over to the criminalist, to the state police lab.
After that glass was given to the criminalist, did you ever have possession of it again?
Never.
Did you ever package it or touch it again in any way?
No, never.
Did you ever process it in any way?
No.
Did you put it in that box and tape it up yourself?
No.
Okay, I'm going to now ask you to open the box, please. Is there an item in that bag?
There is.
Would you please open the bag and show us what's in that bag? Thank you. If you could put it back in the bag and the bag back in the box, please. Lieutenant Gallagher, does that appear to be the same item that you found in the area where John O'Keefe was at Fairview that morning?
Yes, it does.
I'd like to have the box and the item marked for identification, please.
Okay.
To the queue for ID.
Thank you.
When you were looking around the area that was pointed out to you as where John O'Keefe was found, did you expand across the front lawn into the street during your search?
No, we didn't, with the exception of uncovering the 6-foot asphalt berm.
Did you say 6 foot or is it?
Excuse me, 6-inch.
What's a berm?
It's basically a curbing, but it's made of asphalt. It's curved. You probably have seen it. It's asphalt. It's curved. It separates the street from property line.
Why did you clear that piece?
Wanted to see. We're trying to find out why John was having a medical issue, and we didn't know if he could have tripped over a curbing or what turned out to be an asphalt berm and possibly hit his head.
After you made efforts to look in that area, did you return to the Canton Police Department?
I did.
About what time?
It was shortly after 8 a.m.
After you returned to the Canton Police Department, did you receive any information or have a reason to return back to Fairview?
Yes.
About what time?
A little after 9 o'clock.
Why did you go back to Fairview after 9 o'clock?
Sergeant Lank got a phone call that Jen McCabe had more information.
And where did you understand Mrs. McCabe was?
At 34 Fairview.
Did you go back to 34 Fairview?
I did.
Did you go with anybody?
I went with Sergeant Lank.
Did you travel together or separate?
Together.
When you got back to 34 Fairview, outside, what did you do?
We parked in the driveway. We walked up, and next to the garage, there's a side door. I don't know if we rang the bell or not, but Brian Albert, the homeowner, answered the door.
As you walked up to the door, did you have a chance to look around at the doors in the area in front of that side door?
Yes.
Did you see anything out of place?
No.
You've been a police officer at that point for a long time?
Yes.
Do you receive any training in observing areas or people?
Always.
What type of training? What are you told to look for when you're speaking to people?
I've been BOSAR trained, which is behavioral observation, suspicious activity training, and you look for clues when you're speaking to people. Whether they cross their legs, cross their arms. There's certain behavioral characteristics.
At this point, did you have any understanding that this would later be a crime scene?
I did. Yes.
What happened? How did you come to that conclusion?
Oh, not at that time.
Oh, not at that time.
No.
Okay.
Not at that time.